Good morning, good morning. Welcome to A1 since day one. Cuts and boot camp and A1 since day one. Church of God. You heard me. A1 since day one. Church of God. Right. A1 since day one. Since the beginning. He's been A1 since day one. So today's scripture comes from Galatians chapter 3, and I'm going to read for you verses 15 through 21. Dear brothers and sisters, here's an example for everyday life. Just as no one can set aside or amend an irrevocable agreement, so it is in this case. God gave the promise to Abraham and his child. And notice the scripture doesn't say to his children, as if it meant many descendants. Rather, it says to his child. And that, of course, means Christ. This is what I am trying to say. The agreement God made with Abraham could not be canceled 430 years later. When God gave the law to Moses, 430 years later, when God gave the law to Moses, God would be breaking his promise. For if the inheritance could be received by keeping the law, then it would be the result of accepting God's promise. But God graciously gave it to Abraham as a promise. Why then was the law given? It was given alongside the promise to show people their sins, but the law was designed to last only until the coming of the child who was promised. Who was the mediator? God gave his law through angels to Moses, who was the mediator between God and the people. Now, a mediator is helpful if more than one party must reach an agreement. But God, who is one, did not use a mediator when he gave the promise to Abraham. Is there a conflict then between God's law, and God's promise? Absolutely not. If the law could give us new life, we could be made right with God by obeying it. But the scripture declares that we are prisoners of sin. So we receive God's promise of freedom only by believing in Jesus Christ. So basically what it's saying, the old law is done away with. This is the new law, the new covenant, which God promised only to Abraham and his child. See, people get it confused thinking that the new law is only for the descendants or the descendant of Abraham, because he had more than one child, let's say that. But the promise was given to his child. Now he will be the descendant of all nations. But the promise was given to his child, one singular Christ, God. That's it. That's it, Church of God. That's it. The promise is yours. Be blessed.